Shadows and light, the morning light slanted through the glass walls of Vikram Malhotra's penthouse office, casting long shadows across the polished marble floor. At 42, Vikram had built Horizon Technologies into one of India's most valuable companies, but the satisfaction he'd expected to feel remained frustratingly elusive. "Your 9 a.m. with the Singapore investors is waiting, sir?" His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Vikram straightened his custom-tailored suit jacket. "Tell Fareed to bring the car around. I'll take the call on the way to the meeting. Downtown." 15 minutes later, Vikram slid into the back seat of his Maybach, barely acknowledging Fareed Patel, his driver of 7 years. As always, Fareed was impeccably dressed in a simple black suit, his salt and pepper beard neatly trimmed. Vikram had hired him on a recommendation and knew little about the man beyond his exceptional driving skills and quiet efficiency. "Oberoi for the investor lunch, sir?" Fareed asked, his voice gentle but confident. "Yes, and I'll need you to wait." The meeting could run long. The rest of the day unfolded with mechanical precision deals negotiated, contracts signed, competitors outmaneuvered. By evening, Vikram's eyes burned from staring at spreadsheets. As they drove back toward his Bandra neighborhood, the Maybach suddenly stuttered, the engine making an ominous sound before the car rolled to a stop. "I apologize, sir," Fareed said, already examining dashboard indicators. "It appears to be an electrical issue. I can have it fixed quickly, but it might take 15 minutes. Vikram checked his watch with irritation. "Fine. Where are we?" "Borders, sir. Not far from the Mahim Nature Park." Vikram glanced out the window at the unfamiliar neighborhood transitional area, where modern apartments stood alongside more modest dwellings. He rarely ventured into this part of Mumbai. "I'll wait here," he said, pulling out his phone. Fareed nodded and stepped out. After 10 minutes of answering emails, Vikram looked up, realizing Fareed had disappeared. Annoyed, he stepped out of the car, stretching his legs. The evening air carried the scent of jasmine and cooking spices. Across the street, a modest community center with peeling blue paint had its doors open, warm light spilling onto the pavement, to his surprise. Vikram spotted Fareed entering the building, carrying what looked like a stack of books. Curiosity overcame his irritation. He crossed the street and approached quietly, peering through a window. The scene inside stopped him cold. A dozen children, ranging from perhaps 6 to 14 years old, sat in a semicircle on colorful mats. In their center stood Fareed, but not the reserve driver Vikram knew. This Fareed was animated, his hands painting stories in the air, as he demonstrated something with a small potted plant. The children watched him with rapt attention, occasionally erupting in laughter. Behind them, a modest but thriving indoor garden filled the back of the room, planters bursting with herbs, vegetables, and flowers. A hand-painted sign read, "Naya Asha Garden Project" in Hindi and English. A young girl raised her hand, asking a question Vikram couldn't hear. Fareed knelt beside her, his face transformed by genuine warmth as he explained something about the plant, pointing to its roots with the patient expertise of a lifelong teacher. Vikram stepped back, unsettled by what felt strangely like trespassing on something intimate and authentic qualities his own life had long lacked. "Yes," he returned. To the car, a strange emptiness expanded in his chest. For 7 years, his driver had been living a double life that Vikram had never bothered to notice. The car's engine hummed to life minutes later. Fareed returned, once again the composed professional. "All fixed, sir. I apologize for the delay." Vikram studied the man's face, searching for traces of the passionate teacher he'd just witnessed. "No problem, Fareed. These things happen." As they drove toward Vikram's empty penthouse, he found himself wondering what else he had failed to see in the people who moved through his world like shadows. Seeds of change, the sleek glass tower of Horizon Technologies gleamed in the morning sun as Vikram sat at his desk, distracted. For the third time, his executive assistant Nia had to repeat herself. "Sir, the quarterly projections?" "Yes, of course," Vikram said, straightening. "Send them through." but his mind kept returning to the image of Farid kneeling beside those children, explaining something with such stark contrast to the silent, efficient man who had driven him for years. When Farid arrived to take him to lunch, Vikram made an impulsive decision. "Take me to that community center. The one near where we broke down yesterday." Surprise flickered across Farid's face before his professional mask returned. "Sir, the Naya Asha Garden Project. That's what you call it." "It isn't it?" The tension in the car was palpable as they drove. Finally, Farid spoke. "How did you know?" "I saw you there yesterday while waiting. I'm curious, why didn't you ever mention it?" They pulled into a quiet spot near the center. Farid turned off the engine and, for the first time in 7 years, fully faced his employer. "It didn't seem relevant to my work, sir," he said carefully. Then, after a pause, "and some stories are difficult to share. I'd like to hear it, if you're willing." Farid's gaze drifted to the modest building. "I was a botany professor at Delhi University for 15 years. My wife Noor taught literature. We had plans, research, travel, children." His voice softened. "Then the accident happened. A bus crashed during a faculty retreat. Noor didn't survive." Vikram felt a twinge of genuine empathy and emotion he'd grown unaccustomed to in the corporate battlefield. "I'm sorry. Afterward, I couldn't bear the classroom. Too many memories. I moved to Mumbai, took whatever work I could find. Driving. Seemed simple, no attachments. But the garden project?" Small smile touched Farid's lips. 3 years ago, I was delivering food to this neighborhood and saw children playing in dirt patches between buildings. No green space, something woke up in me. Teaching children to grow things has helped me grow again too." The sincerity in Farid's voice made Vikram uncomfortably aware of the hollowness in his own existence, the superficial relationships, the pursuit of deals that brought diminishing satisfaction. "Would you show me?" Vikram asked, surprising himself. Community center was transformed in daylight. Sunlight streamed through windows onto tables where seedlings sprouted in recycled containers. What Vikram had missed in the evening gloom was how the entire space had been ingeniously converted. Vertical gardens lined walls, hydroponic systems made from repurposed materials bubbled in corners, and children's artwork depicting plants and flowers decorated every surface. "We teach them science, mathematics, even literature, all through gardening," Farid explained, his reserved demeanor giving way to enthusiasm. "Many of these children have faced significant hardships. Growing things gives them patience, responsibility, hope." A woman's voice called from the back room. "Farid, did the tomato seeds arrive?" She emerged carrying a tray of seedlings, and Vikram felt the floor shift beneath him. He knew those eyes, that determined set of the jaw, though her face had matured. "From the college girl he remembered, Priya," he said, his voice barely audible. She nearly dropped the tray, recognition widening her eyes. "Vikram Malhotra." Wasn't a question, but an assessment, her tone neither warm nor cold. "It's been ... 20 years?" 19, he corrected automatically, memories flooding back. Priya Sharmoth, the brilliant biology student whose passion for environmental justice had both attracted and intimidated him. They'd been inseparable for 2 years until his father's ultimatum. The family business, or the idealistic girl who challenged everything his family valued? He'd chosen ambition. "You two know each other?" Farid asked, glancing between them. "Ancient history," Priya said with a dismissive wave, though her eyes lingered on Vikram. "What brings India's tech titan to our humble garden?" Her subtle emphasis on humble wasn't lost on him. "Curiosity," he answered honestly. "I never knew Farid's background until yesterday." "He's the heart of this place," she said, her expression softening as she looked at Farid. "Without him, we'd just be well-meaning amateurs." Over the next hour, Vikram observed their operation, the careful budget tracked in worn notebooks, the innovative but makeshift equipment, the devoted volunteers. Most striking were the children who arrived after school, their faces lighting up at the sight of Farid and Priya. Despite limited resources, something authentic flourished here. As they prepared to leave, Priya handed Vikram a small pot containing a fledgling plant. Holy basil, she explained. Tulsi sacred, resilient, and healing. It flourishes even in difficult conditions if given basic care. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, and Vikram felt an unexpected jolt. What care does it need? Water and attention, she said, meeting his gaze directly. Things many of us lack in our lives. On the drive back to his office, Vikram placed the plant carefully on the seat beside him, her words echoing in his mind. For the first time in years, he felt a dormant part of himself stirring like a seed long buried, sensing the possibility of light. Weathering the storm, thunder rumbled over Mumbai as Vikram stood at his office window, watching lightning illuminate the city's sprawl. The fundraiser for Naya Asha was 3 days away, and the weather forecast threatened to complicate their outdoor plans. His phone buzzed with a message from Nia, Aditya Singhania, waiting in conference room. Merger documents prepared. Singhania deal negotiations that had consumed 6 months of Vikram's life was finally ready to close. Horizon Technologies would absorb Singhania developments, expanding Vikram's empire into sustainable urban infrastructure. On paper, it aligned with everything he claimed to value. Yet as he gathered the documents, details surfaced in his memory. Singhania's portfolio included several redevelopment projects in Dharavai borders, including the very block where Naya Asha stood. "You're distracted today, Malhotra," Aditya Singhania remarked 20 minutes into their meeting. The older man's sharp eyes missed nothing. Having second thoughts? Clarifying details, Vikram replied smoothly. "The Dharavi border properties, what are your plans?" Singhania's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Luxury apartments with a green marketing angle. Quite ironic that you ask. One property houses some community garden project that's become a nuisance. They're organizing resistance, but nothing that will delay us significantly."
Ikram's stomach tightened. "I wasn't aware you were behind that."
"Particular acquisition. A minor holding." "Is there a problem?" Everything Vikram had built, his reputation, wealth, influence, rested on closing deals like this one. Walking away would mean betraying shareholders, disappointing his board, potentially triggering a significant devaluation of his company. Yet signing meant betraying Farid, the children, and perhaps something even more fundamental. Within himself, "I need to review something," Vikram said, standing abruptly. "We'll reconvene tomorrow." Singhania's expression hardened. "Don't play games, Malhotra. This deal is too valuable to both of us." The rain had intensified when Vikram arrived at Naya Asha that evening. Through the windows, he could see volunteers frantically moving plants inside as water began seeping under the door. Priya stood directing operations, her hair plastered to her face. "Sorry, hem muddied." When she spotted him, relief flashed across her features. Perfect timing. "Help Rahim move those seedling trays." For 2 hours, they battled the storm's effects, clearing drains, repositioning containers to catch leaks, salvaging what they could. When the immediate crisis passed, Vikram found himself alone with Priya in the main room, both of them drenched and exhausted. "Thank you," she said, handing him a towel. "You've become quite dependable, Vic. Not a quality I associated with you." Before the name Vic, his simplified identity here suddenly felt like a betrayal. With water dripping from his hair and mud on his hands, Vikram made a decision. "Priya, there's something I need to tell you about who I really am and what I've discovered about the property sale." Her expression shifted from confusion to shock as he explained everything: his company, his resources, and finally, the Singhania connection. "So this whole time you've been playing some sort of billionaire undercover boss?" Her voice rose. "Was any of this genuine, or just an amusing diversion from your corporate life?" "It began that way, perhaps," he admitted. "Became real. You became real to me again. And now you're involved with the very people destroying what we've built." Her laugh was bitter. "Some things never change, Vikram. Still caught between worlds, still unwilling to take a stand. That's not fair, isn't it? You've known about this for how long without telling me? Were you planning to swoop in at the last minute, the generous savior? Or just watch from your penthouse as they bulldozed our garden?" The hurt in her eyes cut deeper than her words. Before he could respond, Farid entered, stopping short at the obvious tension. "Is everything all right?" he asked cautiously. Priya turned away, wiping angry tears. Ask your employer. The drive home was silent until Farid finally spoke. She values honesty above all else, sir. Always has. You knew who she was to me? She mentioned a college relationship once. I connected the dots. Farid's eyes met Vikram's in the mirror. What will you do about Sinaya? I don't know. Vikram answered truthfully. The rational choice is clear, and the right choice. The question hung between them as rain lashed against the windows that night. Vikram paced his penthouse, the two paths before him equally impossible. Near midnight, he found himself standing before the holy basil plant, now thriving despite the storm. Raging outside, resilient, sacred, healing, he reached for his phone and dialed a number he rarely used personally. Nia, I need you to prepare. Something for tomorrow's meeting with Singh and Nia, and it's not what anyone will expect. Full bloom, the morning of the fundraiser dawned clear after days of rain, as if the universe had decided to grant Naya Asha one perfect day. Across the community center, colorful banners announced growing hope while children proudly showcased their gardening projects to visitors. Local restaurants had donated food, musicians played traditional instruments in the corner, and the once modest space hummed with life. Yet Priya moved through it all with distracted efficiency, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. She hadn't spoken to Vikram since their confrontation 3 nights ago. She's worried, Farid confided as they arranged chairs. Without the land secured, this celebration feels hollow to her. Vikram checked his watch. Singhania should have received the documents by now, and he agreed to your terms. Not exactly, but he's a businessman. He'll understand the leverage I've presented. The event began with speeches from community members and demonstrations from the children. When Priya took the small stage to address the crowd, her passion momentarily overcame her worries. What grows here isn't just plants, but possibility, she told the gathered neighbors and supporters. These children learn that with patience and care, even the most unlikely seeds can flourish. Her eyes met Vikram's briefly before continuing. We've raised awareness today, but our challenge remains. Without securing this land, our garden of second chances faces an uncertain future. As she finished speaking, a commotion at the entrance drew attention. Aditya Singhania entered, flanked by assistants, his expression inscrutable as he surveyed the gathering. Behind him came Nia, Vikram's executive assistant. Carrying a leather portfolio, whispers rippled through the crowd as Vikram approached them. Mr. Singhania, I didn't expect you to deliver this in person. When someone positions their entire company against mine over a community garden, I prefer to understand why. Singhania's voice was controlled but tight. Your proposal is either madness or brilliance. I haven't decided which. Priya pushed through the crowd. What's happening? What proposal? Vikram gestured for Nia to hand him the portfolio. Yesterday, I informed Mr. Singhania that I was withdrawing from our merger unless he agreed to certain terms. He removed a document and offered it to Priya. The deed to this property transferred to the Naya Asha Trust at a nominal fee. Stared at the paper, disbelieving. How I leveraged everything, Vikram said simply. Horizon Technologies will now partner with community development projects throughout Mumbai. Beginning with Naya Asha, we're establishing an urban agriculture initiative that will transform unused spaces into productive gardens. With this center as our flagship model, Singhania cleared his throat. Your partner convinced me there's more profit in being part of the solution than creating the problem. His proposal for sustainable community integrated development has ... merit. The reality of what Vikram had done slowly dawned on Priya's face. You risked your company. I realigned its purpose, he corrected. Something I should have done years ago. As the implications rippled through the gathering, children crowded around. Sensing the adults' excitement without understanding its cause, one small girl tugged at Priya's sari. Does this mean our garden is safe, teacher? Priya knelt beside her, voice thick with emotion. Yes, Lela, our garden is safe. And it's going to grow bigger than we ever imagined. The celebration that followed transformed from hopeful fundraiser to jubilant victory party. As evening approached and lanterns were lit throughout the garden, Vikram found a quiet moment with Priya among the herb planters. "You could have told me what you were planning," she said, still processing the day's events. "I wasn't sure it would work," he admitted. "And I needed to prove to you and to myself that I could finally take that stand you always believed I should." She touched a basil plant, its leaves reaching skyward. "The boy I knew wanted to change the world but feared losing his place in it. The man before me just risked everything for a garden." "Not just for a garden," Vikram said softly. Meeting her gaze, something shifted between them, not the fiery passion of youth, but something deeper, rooted in shared purpose and hard-won wisdom. "We have much to figure out," she cautioned. "We have time," he replied, "and fertile ground." Across the garden, Farid watched them with quiet satisfaction. Around him, children played among plants that would feed families, volunteers shared meals with neighbors, and business people mingled with community, boundaries dissolving in the warm evening air. In the center of it all stood Vikram and Priya, two people who had taken very different paths only to find themselves back where they began, yet fundamentally changed. Like the garden itself, their story was one of resilience of life, finding its way through concrete, of second chances taking root in unexpected places, of hope blooming even after seasons of loss. As stars appeared overhead, Vikram thought of all the wealth he'd accumulated that had never filled the emptiness within him. Here, among simple growing things and genuine connections, he had finally found what he'd been searching for all along, not in accumulation, but in cultivation. Roots taking hold for 3 weeks, Vikram found himself drawn back to the Naya Asha Garden Project. His first anonymous donation, deposited through a complex chain of subsidiaries, funded a proper irrigation system. He told himself it was mere curiosity that brought him back, nothing more. He began visiting in the evenings, after most children had gone home. He'd shed his designer suit for simple trousers and a button-down shirt, attempting to blend in as Vic, a generic volunteer. If Priya suspected his true motives, she didn't say so. Instead, she put him to work.
Hands.
She'd remarked that first evening, examining his manicured nails with amused disapproval. "Let's see if they remember how to work." Tonight, as Mumbai's air cooled with approaching rain, Vikram found himself alone with Priya in the main garden area. They worked in companionable silence, transplanting seedlings that would eventually feed families in the neighborhood. His hands were now stained with soil, his back ached pleasantly, and he realized he hadn't checked his phone in hours. "You've surprised me," Priya said suddenly, brushing earth from her palms.
Wow.
3 weeks and you haven't fled back to your air-conditioned tower. "Perhaps I'm not who you remember," he replied. "And who would that be?" "The ambitious boy who told me that changing the system required working within it. The one who promised to build something that would make a difference, not just a fortune." Her tone was light, but her eyes held old wounds. Vikram's hands stilled in the soil. "I believed that then, and now." He considered the empire he'd built. Thousands employed, the technological innovations, yet something essential had been lost along the way. "The system changed me more than I changed it," he admitted. A rare vulnerability crossed Priya's face. "I wondered about you over the years, saw your name in business magazines. You achieved everything you wanted." "Not everything," he said quietly. The air between them charged with unspoken history. Before she could respond, the door opened and Farid entered with an elderly man Vikram didn't recognize. "Mr. Deshpande," Priya said, her professional demeanor returning as she stood to greet him. "Thank you for coming." Introductions revealed that Rajan Deshpande was a property lawyer who had volunteered his services. As their conversation unfolded, Vikram learned that the land beneath the community center, which the project had been using through an informal arrangement, was being sold to developers. 6 weeks, Deshpande explained, gently. "That's all the notice they're required to give. You. But the children's garden? All our work," Farid began, his normally calm voice strained. "I understand, but legally, there's little recourse unless you can purchase the land yourselves." After the lawyer left, a heavy silence filled the room. Vikram watched Priya and Farid exchange worried glances. How much would it cost to buy the property? Vikram asked. Priya laughed without humor. Several crore, at least. Might as well be several billion for our budget. Vikram's mind was already calculating. He could easily purchase the land through one of his investment vehicles. One phone call would solve everything, yet something held him back. Such a gesture would reveal his identity and resources, changing the dynamic forever. More importantly, he sensed that Priya's pride and independence were fundamental to her. A billionaire's rescue would undermine everything she had built. Perhaps there's another way, he suggested. What if we organized a community fundraiser? Involve local businesses? Priya looked at him with newfound respect. That's actually not a bad idea. We could host it here, showcase what the children have accomplished. As they began planning, Vikram felt a strange lightness. For years, he had solved problems by throwing money at them. This approach slower, collaborative, uncertain, engaged parts of him long dormant. Later, as Farid drove him home, their shared secret, now a comfortable understanding between them. Vikram noticed his driver watching him in the rearview mirror. You seem different, sir, Farid observed. Vikram touched the soil still embedded beneath his fingernails. I feel different. That night, instead of reviewing acquisition proposals, Vikram researched urban community gardens worldwide. The holy basil plant Priya had given him sat on his otherwise sterile kitchen counter, thriving despite his initially clumsy care, its leaves reaching toward light. Like the plant, something was taking root within him, fragile but persistent, growing toward a future he hadn't allowed himself to imagine.